Hi there, welcome to my weekly messages. I'm Jelaila Star. Today the topic is, I don't know, I haven't come up with a title yet, so I'll just tell you what it's about. It's about this Valentine's Day and remembering the people who helped us crack open our hearts at this late date as we get closer to the end of 2012, when the vibration that we're at is going to determine the version of Earth that we end up on. And I wanted to share a personal journey with you, something I have not shared so far, because I feel like I'm not the only one that's out there, hurting right now, and at the same time feeling the joy of remembering all the good relationships and all the love that we currently have in our lives on this Valentine's Day. All right, so you can tell this, I'm a little nervous about saying this. But many of you know I lost my brother last July, but I didn't tell you how I lost him. And I've hinted about what it's done to me, that loss, since then, but I've never given you the full story. So the reason I want to tell you about this now is because if you have suffered a similar loss, and you've never been able to find peace with it or find a value in it, maybe this message will help you discover that, because it certainly did for me. When my brother passed away in July, he did so as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In other words, he took his own life. He committed suicide. He did so at the age of 53, after realizing that he just could no longer endure the pain of a type of depression that had, as he said, cursed him since he was 8 years old. Our family knew that he was depressed, but we didn't know that much about depression when we all kind of went on with our lives and didn't realize how much he was suffering. And so when he pulled that trigger, it was as though, yes, it took his life, but in a way, it just shattered us. It just shattered us. I know he had talked about ending his life, but we never believed he would do it. So, but I'm not here to talk about the fact that he took his life. I'm here to talk about what has come of that. Growing up, as I've mentioned before in past messages, I grew up in a large family. I had 5 brothers, no sisters. And even though it was a large family, and you would think, you'd have a lot of warmth and, closeness, it was the opposite. My father was a strict disciplinarian. My mother was depressed. And we grew up with a lot of order. We grew up with a lot of perfection, if you will, but we did not grow up with much warmth, and certainly no closeness. In fact, each one of us over time developed an armor around our hearts, with each layer being added, one hurt at a time, until when we were grown, when we got out of high school, we each left and we took off to different parts of the country. So here we are grown with children, and some of us have grandchildren now, and we live an average of 8 to 10 hours apart. This was the greatest frustration of my younger brother, Keith, and something that he lamented, because even though he was depressed and he struggled with that depression his whole life, the one thing that he did talk a lot about was the fact that he wished that we had a family. And we used to say we had family. We couldn't understand what he was bitching about, But now we realize what he was upset about was the fact that we were not a close family. But we were so armored, we intellectually knew that we were not close, but it didn't seem to bother us, because we had learned how to live in this isolated state. So, like I said, when he pulled that trigger, he ended his life, but at the same time it shattered ours. But it was good that it shattered ours, because what that did was it shattered that that armor, that shell that we each had placed around our hearts to cover up the wound and the feelings of loss and sadness that we carried from not having a close family. You know, none of us had ever really grieved the loss of having a mother who could nurture us, or a father who was there. My father loved to travel, and he was gone a lot when we were young. So we kind of grew up fending for ourselves. We never really learned to express those feelings. And as a result, we've each struggled with relationships as adults. So he gave me a gift. He gave each of us a gift. And that is, he destroyed that armor. So what happened was afterwards, we were all just kind of shocked. And it was as though that armor was in pieces on the floor around us, and we were there exposed naked to each other, and our hurt was just so overwhelming that for the first time, we reached out to each other in a way we had never reached out. We cried in front of each other. I don't remember my brothers ever crying in front of me. At least two of them never cried in front of me. And it made us finally move toward each other and connect. And not only that, it made us value that connection. So now we are closer. We say I love you to each other. If you told me a year ago that my brother Tim would say I love you to me, I would tell you were crazy. I mean, this is a man never did that. Doesn't mean that he's not a loving person or a sweet and gentle person. He just had this very thick armor around him, just like the rest of us. So my brother, in ending his life, gave us a new lease on life and allowed us to find the love that we had always wanted, and just didn't feel like we were ever going to have, and that was the love of family. So that is a value that he gave us. And as pertains to the end of 2012, like I said, it enabled us to open up those parts of our heart and release that hurt, which elevates your vibration. So for me, that's putting me in a better space at the end of 2012. And even for my family who are not into any of this, I have a feeling they're going to end up in a safer place than they would have before, thanks to the gift of my brother. So on this Valentine's Day, if you are struggling, like I said, with a loss of this nature, and it is recent, and it has shattered you in a way that you never thought possible, then maybe that loved one had a soul contract to help you find the love that you had always wanted but never thought you could have. That's it. Have a happy Valentine's Day. I'll talk to you next week.